Hello, 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 and welcome to the flip side of adversity. I am Dr. Veirdre Jackson, the CEO and creative behind Living Strong Consulting. So I'm super excited about this conversation because I know if uncertainty has impacted you in any way similar to how it has impacted me, I know that sometimes it can have us feeling stuck. But here's actually the truth to it. You don't have to figure it all out alone. Too often, when we're in a place of fear, it actually keeps us isolated and convincing us that we have to do all of this on our own, figure it all out by ourselves. But what if the breakthrough you needed isn't in isolation, but it's in collaboration? So, your next move could actually be waiting, wrapped in the power of the next connection that you make. When we lean into the right relationships, doors can open, opportunities can expand, and transformation can actually begin. Collaboration isn't just about networking, it's actually about igniting your next level. So today, we're talking with Deana Jean, the collaboration queen herself. And she's going to walk us through how she actually turned adversity into an opportunity through the power of collaborations. So tell me, are you ready? Are you ready to stop feeling stuck and isolated and actually start building? Let's talk about it right here on the flip side. Trauma, toxic stress, broken habit, and hurting heart don't define destiny, but peace isn't passive. It requires an exchange. To create a flip and access peace in the middle of the pieces, you are challenged to make an exchange of the lies that have kept you mentally hostage in basement moments. Resilience isn't about bouncing back, but bouncing forward. Living Strong, the flip side of adversity, brings powerful stories and fearless conversations from experts in the field of business, relationships, emotional, physical, and mental health, and faith-based communities. Each episode creates a brave space with powerful tools from authentic connections. Tune in as we dig in with Dr. Jackson on the flip side of adversity. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the conversation, Deana Jean. I tell you,
Hey, Dr. Jackson, how are you?
I am so well, and I'm so grateful that you are here to have this conversation with our Flipside community. I have been able to be in spaces with you a couple of times. First, it was in Atlanta. The last
Uh-huh.
time we were in Ghana.
In
So,
Ghana.
right? Impacting the lives of leaders and other
Yeah.
collaborators. And so your energy, your insight, your delivery captured me the very first time that I met you in Atlanta. And so I knew then, and it was confirmed in Ghana. And so I'm so excited that you said yes to really help our listeners move from a place of feeling so alone and actually identifying collaborations for growth and leveling up.
Yeah.
So I want to actually honor, I could not possibly do her entire bio justice. And if we did that, we would lose critical time for the for for the actual interview. So I just grabbed a couple of sentences just to give them a little bit of your receipts. So, Deana Jean is your collaboration queen, an award winning business strategist and international speaker with over 15 years of sales and executive leadership experience and a heart for community and collaboration. Guided by the Goals, Gifts, and Gaps framework, Deana and her team partner with entrepreneurs and organizations across the world to grow and thrive through the power of connection and collaboration. Officially, welcome to the flip side of adversity.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Jackson, for having me. I am so grateful that we were able to find time and space to have this important conversation. And I am just so inspired by the work that you do as well. So it really and truly is my honor. So thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Filling my cup, filling my cup. So let's jump into it because we are always amazed at how fast this 55 minutes goes by.
Yeah, I can imagine. I know. I know. No.
the so when you have accomplished a great deal, but there were pivotal moments in your own story that you had to create a pivot, make decisions, and you specifically chose the title From Corporate to Cancer to Collaboration. Can you give us a little bit of the background to why that title is so important for you?
Yes. I mean, and you're right, the 55 minutes, it always goes so fast, right? A lot of times when I do these interviews, people say, well, it's a full hour, we might leave a little bit of time for, and then by the time you get to minute 58, you're like, wait. So, this title was so important to me, Dr. Veirdre, because when you and I spoke, we spoke about the power of the pivot and about the importance of collaboration. And when I think about my life's journey, there have been so many opportunities to lean into that pivot. But I think a lot of times when we see people and we see their end story, especially in entrepreneurship, especially on social media, we see this, right? We see the dress up. And I think it's important for people to realize that every single next level, every single next step that you have requires some form of collaboration and some type of push. So I thought about for myself, when I realized that collaboration was my gift, I thought about what the moments were that stood out the most, that helped me to know that this wasn't just a business strategy, but this was a life strategy. And I thought about my pivot to corporate, how I never imagined that I would be a corporate sales leader. I didn't even know what I was doing with sales for so long until people started buying stuff, right? And leveraging the power of collaboration in those settings to have people who believed a little bit more in my skills than I did, to partner with people who had traditional sales experience and using my natural abilities and finding ways for us to expand and elevate one another, but also our clients. And then I thought about that next pivot, which was the cancer pivot, which we'll talk more about, but how in that pivot, the importance of really leaning into a tribe of folks who all have these different skills and genius areas, right? Similar to corporate, right? And how you can all come together to be able to achieve a common goal. And then I thought about being a collab queen again, third time that I was not expecting to be in this position. When I transitioned from corporate into entrepreneurship, my goal was just to do client work. I said, you know what, if I can make just as much money as I made for, my corporate employer for myself, buy back a little bit of my time, be able to spend some more time with my family, have the ability to choose my clients, then I'll do that. But being the collab queen found me. And so it really and truly helped to signify for me that different times in your life, especially the most unexpected times, when you lean into collaboration, the next best step is always going to appear right in front of you. It's really important.
There's so much in what you just said. Just even as you were talking, that so many people are worried about what is in the future, that they
Mm.
can miss the very next step that's right in front of them.
Next
And
best thing.
yes, and actually leaning into that moment. But sometimes our steps can be really rocky,
Oh, no.
unbalanced. And you had a step that included a diagnosis of cancer.
Yeah.
And not only is that life changing and life impacting for you, but it was actually during a season in which you were pregnant. Can
Mm.
you help us walk through that mental and emotional navigation of
Yeah.
navigating uncertainty?
Yeah, sure. So the whole situation began with a lot of uncertainty because we have three children, my husband and I. So our children are now almost 14. We have one who's going to be turning 14 in about 3 weeks. And then we have a 15-year-old son who will be 16 in August. And then we have the baby girl who will actually be 9 in July. And my boys are 19 months apart. And so when we had these two boys so close together, which came faster than we anticipated, we were like, okay, this is great. The greatest thing about having two kids that are really close together is that people won't keep asking you when the third one is going to come, right? Because, you did the do, right? There were two boys, and I was a self-proclaimed boy mom. I wanted boys so bad, even before I had babies. And one day, little girl just kind of popped up. And after we had gotten through the shock of it all,
Yeah.
we actually leaned into the idea that this could actually be pretty fun. Because when we had our boys, we were still pretty young in our marriage, we were young in our careers. And 5 years later, 7 years later, right, respectively, we were just in a different place. So we are like, you know what? This is actually an opportunity for us to do this a little bit differently. And went along in the pregnancy, and things were going really, really well. And then about 5 months into the pregnancy, I actually ended up finding my own lump. And I remember when I was Dr. Jackson in high school, I went to an all girls school. And I remember being in that school, and that there was, we used to have, health and wellness classes.
Mm-hmm.
And that because we were all girls school, they talked a lot about women's things. And they were saying, doing your breast exam, and they told you when to do it, how often to do it. And I remember being 14, 15 years old and saying to myself at the time, I don't even know if I would know what it felt like. I don't even know if I would know what a lump felt like. I kept thinking I would do it wrong, or how would I even know if I had breast cancer? And I'm so grateful for that routine that started at such a young age, because it gave me a very good baseline.
Mm-hmm.
So when I felt something that was different, I was like, oh, this is the thing. And I actually ended up going back to my OBGYN 5 times before he would actually image me. He told me 5 different times that I did not have cancer. And this was a man who had actually delivered my first two children. He was someone that we respected a ton. He was kind of like part of our family. And I realized at that point in time that I had to advocate for myself, and said to him that fifth time, I said, listen, I appreciate you. We love you. But at this point, if you're not going to image me, I'm going to need you to reflect that in my chart. I need you to document that you're refusing to image me. And he said, well, hold on. I
Mm-hmm.
said, obviously you're upset about this. The most important thing is your health, but also the baby's health. I don't want you stressed out. Let's get it done. I went and got scanned on a Tuesday. I was biopsied on a Wednesday. I was diagnosed on a Thursday. So when we think about navigating a space where you go from, first of all, not even really being prepared to kind of have this third child, right? Like the surprise of that. But then walking into a situation where you're told that you have a very aggressive form of breast cancer and you're pregnant. That was the point at which I had to really determine what type of mental tenacity I was going to have.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
had my moment of breakdown because everyone that I spoke to, including doctors that I respected a ton, told me that I would have to make a choice, that I would either have to decide that we were going to terminate pregnancy, or I was going to have to decide that I was risking myself and my daughter and that we wouldn't be able to do treatment. But then I remembered the thing that had gotten me the furthest in my life, and that was bucking against the status quo. That was leveraging my will
Mm-hmm.
and partnering that with skills of people who know more than I do.
Yeah.
And that was exactly what I did. We talk about collaboration. I got on the phone with people who were in high places and asked for favors. And within 24 hours, I had conversations with the three top medical directors of the three top cancer centers in the country. And within the next day, I was sitting in the office of the woman who would become my oncologist. And that's when collaboration really had to start.
Yes. But there's so much in what you just said. I want to actually just go back first to when you said the surprise, the shock, and then you had to intentionally shift and say, what could be possible
Yeah.
with this unexpected moment? And how
Mm-hmm.
many people get stuck at the shock and don't go any,
Yes.
and that leaves them paralyzed, that they can't quite make that, there's still something possible in this. Did you always have that? Was that
You
always the way
know,
you looked at the world?
so for me, it's interesting because I was just talking to someone about this today. So I was born and raised in Brooklyn. I'm a Brooklyn girl. So we pretty tough outer core, right? And I was taught to keep it moving,
Mm.
right? I was taught that if they're not going to let you in the door, you got to go through the window. I was taught that in Brooklyn, there are 5 different ways you could get to school. And based on whatever's happening at any given point in time on the block that you decide to walk down, you got to be able to pivot,
Yes.
right? And so for me, what allowed me to be able to do things like that was always surrounding myself with people
Mm-hmm.
who could do the thing that needed to be done when I couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you get this idea of the success tribe from. So for me, I was in that shock moment. But in order to first give myself the ability to be in that moment, and secondly, to make sure that we didn't waste time, what I did was I started making calls. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I am in this moment of shock and I still need somebody to do something.
Yes.
Here is what I need for you to do because I can't do it for myself.
Right.
And I was really fortunate and am really fortunate to surround myself with people who take that on. And I do that for them. Right.
Yeah.
So for me, it's about like you have a moment and you're going to be in that shock and you have to take a beat and you have to breathe. But you also have to remember that there's a next best thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And a lot of times I think we get paralyzed by the shock because we go so far ahead. We think about 3 months, 6 months. What's the outcome going to be? I
Mm-hmm.
don't know what to do. But literally, I got the call. I was on the phone. And the first thing that I did was I stood up and I walked up the stairs and I told my husband,
Yeah.
leveraging my
Yes.
collaboration partners, right? And then what did we do? We got on, we called my mom. The next best thing, I wasn't thinking about chemo treatment. Then after we called my mom, I said, okay, I have to get in to see a doctor. Who do we know? So just thinking about the next thing that you can do, and that will lead you to the outcome that you're supposed to have.
Which leads me to the second thing. Besides the advocacy, self advocacy piece, when someone tells you something and you know that that's not the truth for you, being able to continue to press until
Yes.
you get the confirmation of what the truth that you believe, but you've got to sometimes move past people who want to dismiss, ignore,
Absolutely.
or minimize.
Absolutely every day. And we can say that in corporate, we can say that in cancer, and we can say that as your collab
Oh,
queen, right? Where
oh.
you know what you know to be true, right? You know what your gift is. You know what you're feeling. And that's why it's so important to me to have these conversations on platforms like yours with the American Cancer Society, because we need to bet on ourselves. We need to know and trust that no one knows our bodies
Mm-hmm.
better
Mm-hmm.
than we do.
Yeah.
And that if you have a physician or a medical provider who is not listening to you, get a different provider.
Yeah. Yeah. There, oftentimes when people have asked me, coming up on year 9 of running Living Strong Consulting, and people often ask me, so how did you get started? Feeling
Mm,
overwhelmed with the prospect of launching a business. And I tell them often that I sat and thought about all of the people I already knew and who knew the quality of my work.
mm,
And how often do we not pause to think about who you actually already know? You
yeah,
have relationships. Are you
yeah.
leveraging them? Are you using them in a way that it serves you for your best next step? And that sounds like that was pivotal for you as well.
It was very pivotal. And I love that you mentioned sitting down, taking a beat, and thinking about who you know. And I'll add to that, taking a beat and thinking about what you've done.
Yes, yes, yes.
One of one of the when I work with clients, specifically when they're working around like career advancement, negotiation, right? Salary
Yeah.
negotiation, looking to pivot from corporate into, whatever their own thing is. I have them sit down and create a brag book. And I say, I want you to take some time and I want you to think about every accomplishment that you've been proud of.
Mm.
Everything from, and I give them an example. I say, so when I think about it, I think about the second grade spelling bee. I was in the
I
spelling
love
bee in the second grade, and I was the representative for my class. And the way that they worked it at my school was that, and it was a little private school, you would get up on stage and you would say the word, right? They would say the word and then you would spell it. But uh, no one else could go until you spelled the word wrong. I'm telling you, I got up there. Nobody had a chance. Nobody had a chance. I wiped. Nobody said no. I had the whole thing. And I remember looking in the audience, and my second grade teacher jumped. She said, "That's my baby." And I remember that. That's part of my writing book. That was when I
Yeah.
realized that I stood out from other people
Mm-hmm.
in some way,
Mm-hmm.
shape, or form. And a lot of times when we are thinking about collaboration and we're trying to find people that we know that we can ask for things or ask favors of, one of the biggest things that holds us back is that we will say to ourselves, well, what can I give this person? Why would they want to help? That imposter syndrome
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
sets in, right? So that's why I think it's important to do both. First, remember what you've done, like remember who you are.
Yes.
And then secondly, think about who you know and
Yes.
leverage that and find ways to create mutual value together.
Yes. And don't be afraid to reach out and then tell those people, I need you. Let me share with you something that is happening with me, and how can we support one another? I think there's also that pause in actually telling people and
Mm.
asking for either the support, the connection, the collaboration,
Mm.
actually taking that next step. Once I've listed who I know, then sometimes we get stuck in actually accessing those people and being vulnerable and honest.
And that's why
Mhm.
relationships and connection is so important when it comes to collaboration,
Mhm.
because it becomes awkward when the first time that you've reached out to that person in 3 years is when you're asking them for something. Yes,
Yes.
that becomes awkward, right? But that's why it's so important to stay in community and connection with people. And that doesn't mean that you need to talk on the phone every day. But listen, if you have somebody and they run across your mind, shoot them a text
Yeah.
message. If you
Yeah.
see somebody running across your social media feed or LinkedIn and they have a new promotion, instead of just saying the congratulations in the thread, send them a direct message, send them a voice note.
Yeah.
If somebody runs across your mind, just say, hey, you were running across my mind. I just wanted to check in and see how you're doing. There have been so many opportunities, Dr. Veirdre, that I've had that have come up because I've checked in on people
Yeah. Yeah.
just to say, hey, the holidays are coming up. I know if it's as crazy for you as it is for me, I'm gonna just take the time now to say happy everything, right? It could
Yes.
be October, September. And people say, oh, dear, I've been seeing, and this is when you figure out too that people are watching you.
Mm-hmm.
Because then when you reach out, they're like, girl, I've been seeing all the stuff. And I'm like, girl, I didn't even know you on my email. Like, what are you talking about? They ask me, how was Ghana? I'm like, people are watching. But if you don't
Yes.
take the time to connect in
Mm-hmm.
a way that is not anticipating
Yes.
a some type of reciprocal thing,
Right.
right? What they can do for you, then you won't know.
Right. Right. When you talk about being the collab queen, that's one thing, but it's not just you. You have created an entire success tribe network. how do
Yeah.
we how do we get to that place where and tell us about what is the success tribe network and how did you walk into and create a network of people?
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, the network, again, just like corporate cancer, all the things was something that I fell into.
Mm,
So when I started and I was doing the client work and I was doing the consulting, sales consulting and leadership consulting with tech companies. Hey, Echo, how you doing? When we were doing all of that, I also at that time joined an app called Clubhouse because I
mhm,
was starting to connect with other entrepreneurs. That was right around the time of the pandemic.
mhm,
And I loved it because it gave me the opportunity to connect with people in a way that made sense because I'm an introvert. So I'm not the person that's going to go to the conference with 200, 300 people that I don't know and start having conversations. I'm not that person. So what Clubhouse gave me the opportunity to do is to connect with people in a way that could conserve my energy because it was all audio,
mhm,
right? So you could pop in and pop out. But it also gave me the chance to follow up with people individually.
mm,
And when I did that, I started making connections to people. And I would hear what people were talking about and what they were doing. And it's probably my sales brain, because as a salesperson, you're supposed to listen, right? Have a really good idea of what people need and then make a map for them or product solution. And what I started doing was matching people together because of I was having all these different, and I was like, hey, do you know this person? Hey, do you know that person? I just talked to this person last week. Do you know them? And people would come back to me and say, Deanna, I've never had anybody match me with someone as well as you did based on you talking to me for 2 or 3 minutes.
mhm.
How can I stay in community with you and these other people?
Nice.
And that was how the Success Tribe Network was born. And it truly is a space that is curated to build the atmosphere for collaboration. It is a place where you come, where you can build know, like, and trust. So getting to know people by connecting with them, seeing them in different situations and learning from them so you figure out if you like them, right? Do you vibe with them? and then
I'm
taking
going
the
to ask you
opportunity
about
to
that.
take those conversations offline, so that you can see if you trust them, like what happens over time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it just grew and evolved. And today, it really is the cornerstone and the core of a lot of things that I do in different areas of business, whether it be speaking, corporate, whatever it may be.
But let's actually talk about today. Why do
Yeah.
you feel like collaboration is pivotal, essential for whether you're an entrepreneur, you're a speaker, you're a consultant, or you're the classroom teacher? Like, why today would you
Yeah.
say collaboration is so important?
So there are several reasons. So the first reason is that you can be as good as you want to be at the thing that you do.
Mm,
But one of the things that kills us as entrepreneurs fastest is trying to be
thanks.
all the things for all the people because we can, right? When we look at kind of your zone of excellence, your zone of genius, right? Like we are living in that, like, this is something I could do really. This is my zone of excellence. I do it really well, even though I hate it, right? So the first thing that collaboration does and allows for you to do is to delegate things and to have people that you can call on for other things,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
If I can teach sales and leadership and, you know, collaboration, I can hone in specifically on sales and give somebody else the opportunity to do leadership, right?
Yeah.
So that's the first reason that it's important. The second reason that it's important is that it just creates more opportunity. When you have people who have all these different skills together, it expands. Even if you think about things like government contracting, and Dr. V, when
Mm-hmm.
you go for big contracts, especially in the government and the state, the local level, whatever it may be, one of the first questions that they ask you is about collaboration. Who are you going to bring in? Who are
Yes.
you going to collaborate with?
Every
You
time.
can't win those contracts by yourself. So that's important. And then also, as an entrepreneur, as a teacher, whatever it may be, it's very easy to get burnt out. Collaboration is really the key to preventing burnout,
Yeah.
because you get to lighten the load across the board and you get to really lean in to what other people do very well. And you get to also be a learner. When you collaborate, you don't have to always be the one that's pouring and giving. You can sit back and you can learn from what someone else is doing in the room. That was one of the things that was so powerful about Ghana for me, our experience in Ghana, is that each and every single speaker that came up, that was part of the collaboration book, that was part of the collaboration project, it gave each of us the opportunity to sit back and learn something.
Yes.
When we're
Yes.
typically the ones, by definition, right, that are pouring, 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 and then we have these empty cups. So those are some of the reasons why I feel like today, more than ever, in the times that we're living in, collaboration is really important.
When we think about the opportunity to create authentic relationships that complement one another, and you can be real, it helps with that element of creating safety so that you can continue to
Mm,
grow, to level up. But I wanted to ask the hard question, in what are some red flags for
mm,
that the collaboration might not be the best fit for you?
this is good. So I actually have a framework that you can use to test this out, right? Because when you're looking at a collaboration, you really want to make sure that you are hitting on three different markers. Because just like all money ain't good money, right?
Ooh, say that.
Right?
Say
All
that.
collabs ain't good collabs. So here's some ways that you can know that a collab is not necessarily going to be a good fit for you. The first is that if you're not aligned in your goals. So if you are pursuing or you're looking at a collaboration and you are aligning with somebody who doesn't have similar goals as the ones that you have for the collaboration, that could be a very good indicator that it might not be a good fit. The second thing to think about is, do our gifts match each other? right?
Mm.
A lot of times what you want to do is you want to come into a collaboration where you have a gift that complements someone else's gift so that you can really get that synergy going, and the effect, the outcome can be exponential. So the second thing that you want to check for to make sure that it's going to be good is, do our gifts complement each other, right? And then the third thing that you want to think about is the gaps that I have. Is this collaboration filling in a gap for me? And if you're not able to answer in the affirmative in those three areas, are we aligned in our goal? Do our gifts things that really complement each other? Can we work well together with our gifts? And then finally, is this someone that's going to help me fill in gaps? If they can't check all three of those boxes for that specific project, one of two things: they're either not the right collaboration partner, or the project isn't the right project for that partnership.
I love those goals, gifts, and gaps,
Mm-hmm.
and being willing to step back and not keep forcing a
Yes.
collaboration or relationship. It doesn't mean that you are wrong or that they are wrong. It is
Right.
just not the right fit. And we don't have time to continue to waste with trying to make something work when we could
Yeah.
actually step apart and create opportunities to connect with others.
And that's exactly it. So that's why the success tribe is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you have a success tribe, you have a network of people where you know all these different things that they do, but also you've been in community with them, like we are in the success tribe network. You know enough about them to have a conversation with someone and say, okay, this isn't the right project for me and you because like we don't vibe similarly,
Mm-hmm.
but let me connect you with Dr. Rhonda, because I could see this working out a little bit better for you all, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's where that becomes important, because we don't want to leave people hanging. We don't want to leave people worse than we found them. We want to be helpful. That's why we're coaches and consultants and, advisors. So
Yes.
having that network of people that you can then put people together and point them in the right direction, it makes it much, much easier to have those conversations when it's not a good fit for you.
Yeah. Can you paint a picture of the either the success tribe experience or a moment where you
Yeah.
saw a collaboration that was just fire? Can you paint us a picture?
Yeah. Oh man, there's so many that I can think of, but I'll give you an example. So in the Success Tribe Network, one of the things that we do is, again, we curate these environments for collaboration. So we have virtual ways that we do that, where we meet virtually on Zoom, and then we have ways that we do that in-person gatherings. And then we have international retreats that we do that with a select group of people. And 2 Octobers ago, we did our Success Tribe international experience in Cancun. And we had about 30 people that had come together. And most of these people had not met each other before becoming part of the Success Tribe Network. And leading up to the event, what we do is, we provide frameworks, we provide opportunities for people to connect. We give them time to practice. We tell them what to be looking for in one another. And then we give them time to be in community. And had a great time. We had our sessions, because we mix it up. We do sessions, but we really make sure that people are having a good time together, right?
Yeah.
Go to dinners together, have a drink by the pool together, like go on the excursion together. And leaving that, there were 3 women that met at that time. One was a CFO, one was a wealth advisor, and one was an attorney. They had never met each other before. And like I said, this was 2 Octobers ago. And they met each other at that event. They kicked it off. They were on the boat together. They were kicking it. They stayed connected. They stayed in touch. These women have done so much work together. They started a
Mm.
podcast together. They started they have done webinars together, they've done events together. They're in the process right now of launching a new project together, all because they were able to see the power of collaboration when you get those goals, gifts, and gaps together, but also because they had the opportunity to build this connection in a space that gave them not just the environment to do it, but the skills, right? The framework
Mhm.
and the resources, but most importantly, a place that was safe because everybody was vetted before they came into the room. So you felt really comfortable with your vulnerability. You felt really comfortable with sharing your client list. You felt really comfortable with sharing your gift. So that's one of my favorite stories. And these are three women from, different, ethnic backgrounds who, again, one is from DC, one lives in DC, one lives in Seattle, and one lives in Ohio, right? Like you would have never like met each other, but being able to bring that together, that is what happens in the Success Tribe Network.
And with that picture, I want you now to make it plain on how collaboration is, and that collaboration experience is different from a networking event.
Yeah, so it's different in a few different ways, right? And networking events come in all varieties,
Hmm.
right? So I'll say your typical
The
networking event.
traditional, yes.
Yeah, the traditional networking event. So one way that it's different is that there's a vetting that happens ahead of time,
Hmm.
right? Everybody can't get in. With a traditional networking event, people put it out there, you can sign up, you show up, and then that's what it is, right? So the first thing is that there's a vetting. The second thing is that in traditional networking, people can be coming there for all different types of reasons,
Hmm.
right? Some people are coming for the free food. Some people are coming because they want to find clients. Some people are coming just because they nosy. They want to see what's happening. Some people are coming because they want to figure out how they could do a similar type of event. In the Success Tribe Network, you know that everybody that's coming is coming and being there specifically for the purposes of learning how to execute effective collaboration.
Mm.
So it puts you in a different space and mindset because everybody's on the same page. And then another thing about it is that, part of the vetting is that there are barriers to entry, right? It's an investment. You have to invest.
Hmm.
So there's also a mindset shift that happens in there because you know that everybody who's in there has a mindset around investing at a certain level for access, for
Hmm.
opportunity, and for connection. So it just creates a very different type of environment and a different level of know, like, and trust than the traditional networking environment.
Yes. I felt the intentionality that's literally driving the moment so that you can get to execution quicker,
That's right.
with a better success rate, if
That's
I can.
right. Yeah, you got success. It's
It's,
all intentional. It's all
yes,
intentional.
yes,
Yeah.
I see it. And Dr. Curry is like, I love that. I love that name, that terminology. I know Dr. Curry. The So I also just want to go back to something you said, because I also am an introvert,
Mhm.
and people are often surprised when I say that,
Same. Same.
because of, I tell them I am a functional extrovert. When you were in Ghana, you don't know this because we were in the back of the room. I told my youngest, the 24-year-old
Yeah.
JL,
Okay.
you
Uh-huh.
met,
Uh-huh.
got to
Yes.
connect with.
Beautiful.
Um,
Awesome.
it was in Ghana that she actually made the decision that she actively wanted to become a part of Living Strong Consulting.
Oh, wow.
And when she was a part of course, my session, which was
Yeah.
before yours, and when you got up, I said, now she is going to deliver a powerful message. I didn't even know what you were going to talk about. I said, watch her
Yeah, that's not
delivery.
pressure, Dr. V. But I appreciate
No, I didn't even know what you're going to talk about. I said, she's watch her delivery, watch how she does it, is going to be powerful. And then you get on this show and you say you're an introvert too.
Yes, ma'am.
So
I am.
how do you deliver with
Mm,
such power? Because I am working with a group of women. Our third session of Girlfriend Gatherings, Women Empowered 2025, is this month. And
yeah,
so we are creating spaces for them to stand in their authentic selves, to find community, and to really identify what their next move is and stop sitting on the idea. It's now time to execute. And one of the things is actually owning your space.
that's
And
right.
oh, I'm an introvert. I like to be in the background. I'm just the person who, no, 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 not in this season. We
Mm-mm.
it's
Yeah,
time to execute. So can
yeah,
you speak to those women? I'm going to be personal. Can you
yeah.
speak to those women about how, as an introvert, how do
Mhm.
you still show up so powerful?
Yeah. So you're not the first person that is very surprised by the fact that I'm an introvert. But if you ask any of my family and my friends, they're like, she is absolutely an introvert. And I want to be clear with people, right? Being an introvert doesn't mean that you are shy. Being an introvert doesn't mean that you lack confidence. We just recharge differently.
Differently.
We need
Mm.
our me time, we need our self care. And as introverts, we prefer to go deep versus wide,
Yes.
right? So give us an intimate gathering and we're going to make strong connections. So what I realized is that a couple of things. When I decided I was going to run a business, I knew that I had to find a way to market, sell, connect that would energize me,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
because the way that other people was doing it, it was depleting me, right? The traditional networking, the idea of going to a place and having small talk, I'm repelled by that. I'm repelled by that. So I had to figure out, how do I make it so that I am only in spaces and places that energize me so that I can show up powerfully and I don't have to feign it.
Mm.
So the first thing is being very intentional about the spaces that I choose to occupy. Only occupying spaces with people that I know are going to light me up. Only, exclusively, and making no apologies about it, right? So that's thing number one for me, is owning the space and identifying the spaces that you want to be in and not wavering on that. This is what lights me up. These are the people that light me up. These are the things that light me up. These are the morals and values that light me up. So that's thing number one. Second thing is that you have to have a I have a pre and a post event routine, right? So I put the things in place for me that make it so that I can recharge before I get to the event and not have anxiety, show up and do the thing at the event, and then I have the things that I do after the event. So for me, I have every single type of flight or or travel accelerator that you can have. I got global entry, I got clear, I got digital ID. I'm in the lounge, all the things.
All the
I
things.
and if I'm flying, I get to the airport intentionally 2 hours ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, I fly through because I wanna sit in the lounge. I wanna have a meal. I wanna center myself. I wanna center myself. So that helps me, right? And then having a
Mm-hmm.
post-event type of situation, and even at the event, I don't do huge events.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do really, really, really big events where I'm required to engage with all those people. I like to do intimate events that give me the opportunity to truly connect with people. That brings me joy, right? And then I have, a routine when everything is done for me to decompress. I try when I travel, I never fly out the night out. I never fly out the night of. I always take that night in the hotel. I order my room service. I make sure that, they have the smart TV. I can look at my Netflix or whatever it is, so that as I'm preparing the next day to go back to my family or go back to whatever the next thing is, I don't feel like I'm just rushing from one thing to another. So I say, figure out what your routine is. Figure out what it is that you can do that allows you to show up with energy, whether it's things that you do before, during, or after.
Mhm.
And it's going to be much, much easier because you're going to look forward then to showing up in those types of spaces, even as an introvert.
I love the unapologetic part of that. Making the decision, not apologizing for it, and
Yeah.
saying, I'm going to create spaces, go to places and spaces that energize, that feed, that will not deplete me. And I'm going to
Right.
create the practice that supports
Yeah.
it. Yes,
Yeah.
unapologetically. Mm.
And that's it. And it becomes so much more productive because as an introvert, for me, I thrive off of little wins. So if I'm in a space where I know that I can make connections with people, great example, come into the event in Atlanta. That was a very last minute thing where I was connected to somebody that was connected to the event host. And they said, hey, you should be in this space. We want you to come and speak. And I vetted the event. I thought about who are going to be the type of people that are going to be there. How large is the event going to be? Is there going to be an opportunity for make intentional connections? And in vetting that event and getting there, it did exactly what I anticipated that it was
Yes,
going to do. It lit me up. It energized me. That's where you and I met for the first time,
it
and
is.
several others, right? And it didn't take, you and I haven't known each other very long, right? It doesn't take 2, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years when you're intentional about where you show up and how you show up in that space.
Mm. Yes. You've mentioned the word vet a couple of times. If someone they don't have direct access to you yet, how
Mm-hmm.
does someone go about vetting an event to be more certain, can't always be perfectly certain, but
Yeah.
more certain that it is the type of event that's going to give you the opportunity that you're looking for?
Yeah, great, great, great. So it actually goes back to that goals, gifts, and gaps
Okay.
framework, right? Because it's
Mm-hmm.
universal. You can use it in so
Mm-hmm.
many different ways. But one of the biggest reasons a lot of times that we will show up at events and not get out of them what we need is because we're not clear on what we want to get out of them. So thing number one is, in order for you to vet events well, you have to be very clear what you want from the event. You have to be very clear about why you are showing up in that space. So we'll use the Atlanta event as an example. When I at that point in time, I was looking specifically and intentionally for more collaboration partners. I wanted to find more women who were aligned with my work ethic, the work that I did, that had audiences of people that could complement my audience so that we could create collaborative opportunities that could eventually lead to less burnout for all of us.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
in doing that, what did I say? I knew that I wanted to collaborate with women. It was important to me to be able to collaborate with a diverse group of women, right? And I knew also that I wanted to have the opportunity for these women to, because it was going to be a short period of time,
Mm-hmm.
to get to know me well enough to want to know more. And
Yes.
for me, one of the best ways to do that is to have an opportunity to speak.
Yes.
And I don't
Yes.
need to speak for a long time. I was on a panel at that
You
event.
were. You
I was
were.
on a panel at that event, and I think the whole panel was maybe 25 minutes. I was one of 4 or 5 people. But I knew that if I got to an event where I was able to open my mouth and speak in an audience of women who I wanted to collaborate with, that there
Mm-hmm.
would be opportunities that would come from that. So think about all the things that I said. If I hadn't been clear on that and I said, well, I just want to go to an event where I can meet people, I could have showed up at the Atlanta Business Chamber,
Mm-hmm.
networking event. It wouldn't have been a bad idea, right? That's a very, very well-known chamber. They do very, very well. But that wasn't what I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So first step is get clear about what you're looking for. And once you do that, Dr. V, what you'll realize is that it is so much easier to find the events than you think.
Oh,
Because now you're just more clear on what you're looking for,
yes. Yes.
right? But if you don't
Yes.
have that clarity around your goal, it makes it very difficult. It's like needle in a haystack. You're just picking at stuff and say, oh, well, I just want to meet people. I want to find more clients. Okay, so does everybody else.
Mm.
Right? So does everybody else. So that's what I would say is first get very, very clear on your goal and why you want to attend a networking event or any type of event, a retreat, whatever it may be. Be very, very clear about why you want to attend it. And then you'll start to see that um, your funnel gets smaller as to the qualified types of events that you would attend.
The Again, the opportunity to crystallize unapologetically what you're looking for and own that so that you can begin to execute. Girlfriend gathering crew, I hope you are listening. This is an
Yes.
opportunity from an expert who does this to give you advice. I often ask my guests at the end of our episode, before I let them know how they can connect with you, I'd like for you to actually visualize um, a woman, um, a leader who it is time for her to make a bold step in her career,
Mm,
but she's standing there.
mm,
You have already given her a great deal of wisdom,
yeah.
but I'd like for you to visualize her. It is time to make that bold step, but
Mm,
she's standing there. What do you say
mhm.
to her?
Well, I can speak to this woman because I've been this woman. Right? So I would tell her three things because the reason that she's standing there probably has to do, if she's anything like me, like I was, with fear of the unknown, with imposter syndrome around being in the world and taking that next move, and then also with fear around doing it wrong. And I would give her three things to think about. The first thing that I would let her know and to tell her is that it's so, so important to truly lean into the idea that done is better than perfect. Done is better than perfect. And done means just doing the next best thing. Because if you don't take the opportunity to make the next step, you won't realize that guess what? Nothing is perfect, right? So take the next step in realizing that done is better than perfect. Maybe that's reaching out to a mentor. Maybe that is volunteering for a board, whatever it may be. The second thing that I would say to her is to remember and to realize that she can't make progress in a process that she doesn't participate in. What does that mean? That
Mm.
means that if you want to move forward in some way, you actually actively have to do something and you have to participate in the process. So I would have her remember that as she is thinking about moving forward. And then the very last piece is a piece that I really needed for myself, and it's the hardest piece for us. I would encourage her to give herself grace, and not just any type of grace, but I would encourage her to extend to herself the same level of grace that she extends to others. So those are the three things that I would say to that woman who is ready, but might be a little paralyzed in that fear. Done is better than perfect. You can't make progress in a process you don't participate in, and give yourself grace, girl. It's gonna be all right.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm telling you,
Mhm.
it was that Atlanta event, and
Yeah.
I want people to hear this. She was on a panel. She wasn't speaking alone,
Mhm.
and it was the entire panel was about 20 minutes. But when she spoke, I say, "Oh yeah, she's a real one."
Yeah, yeah.
Look for the opportunity to get the
Look for
mic
the
in your
opportunity.
hand and be
Yeah.
ready. Be
And
ready
be
when,
ready.
yes, when the opportunity comes, be ready, because it wasn't
Yes.
long. It didn't take me long.
Right.
We do this for a living. It did not take me
Right.
long. I said, "Oh,
Yeah.
she's a real one." And then I told JL, "Watch." And she was like, "Mom, she is good." I said, "See, I told you."
That was so, you're so awesome. And the last thing that I would say is, get the mic in your hand, be ready for the opportunity, and the fortune is in the follow-up.
Mhm. Yes.
Fortune is in the follow-up. I think a lot of times we'll see people and we'll say, oh, they saw me speak at that thing. If they want me to be on their podcast, they're going to reach out to me. Or you reach out to them one time and they don't respond. And you're like, oh, she don't like me. Listen, people are busy. All right.
That
Find opportunities to stay connected and be a person because people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And
yes.
then it'll come right back around the way that it's supposed to.
So I know people are wondering, well, so how can I connect with her? How can I follow what she's doing and how she is literally creating this powerful movement of collaboration? How can people follow you and connect?
Yes, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Dr. Veirdre. This has been amazing. We knew that, it was gonna go by fast, but I do a lot of these. I do a lot of podcasts, and I really appreciate the intention behind all of this. So, for those of you who are listening, just know that Dr. V puts a lot of time, effort, and energy into this, and I am super, super appreciative. So, thank you for the invitation and for the execution. So folks can stay connected to me. I'm on LinkedIn. So if you are listening to this and you are looking for a speaker that can come in to train or speak around sales or collaboration, then you can find me on LinkedIn at Deana Jean. And you'll see your Collab Queen right next to that. And then if you are interested in the Success Tribe Network and you're like, I want to learn more about that network, I want to understand how I can partner with Deana and her team to be better at collaborating and to get into that environment, then Facebook. Follow me on Facebook because we do a lot of stuff with the network on Facebook, also at Deana Jean. And I have an event coming up on the 13th of March in New York. So if you're interested in joining us at that event, then reach out to me and let me know that you heard me here with Dr. V, and I am happy to share more information. It's the Connect and Collab Summit in New York on March 13th. It's going to be a tremendous event and would love to see some of you there.
And for our podcast listeners, can you please spell the correct spelling of your name so when they go
Yes,
to search for you, they actually can get it right?
yes, absolutely. So on all platforms, I'm Deana Jean. So Deana, and then last name is Jean, Jean.
There you have it. Another amazing conversation. And I hope that this was an opportunity for you to reflect on whether it was being unapologetically authentic, whether it was understand how you can identify someone or work with someone else by their goals, their gifts, the gaps, or whether it was you needed to hear that it is time for you to engage in your own process. Whichever goal, treasure, nugget that Deana gave, I know you have to have gotten multiple. I want you to remember in this moment that what you've been through does not define your destiny. And you can create a flip to any adversity. It may take time, it may take intentionality, but the flip is within your next step. But you got to move. So stay
Move.
with us every single episode in 2025. I am committed to having conversations around healing, healing in the middle of uncertainty, healing in the middle of chaos, and creating your next move. We will not be stuck by circumstance. So, same place, same time, right here on the flip side. We'll see you then.